you were worried that the Harris administration was going to continue this policy that you called Operation Choke Point 2.0, which that's a phrase you coined to describe a pattern of choking off crypto from the traditional financial system. Of course, the first Operation Choke Point was an actual formalized program of trying to cut off disfavored industries, whether it's kind of the sex trade or gambling or medical marijuana and so forth from the banking system. Operation Choke Point 2.0, as you describe it, was kind of a less formalized effort to do the same to crypto, choking them off from access to the financial system. And a month before the election, you revisited that in an article I'm going to pull up here for CoinDesk, why you should still care about Silvergate. And Silvergate was one of the banks that went down after the Silicon Valley Bank collapse. And you write here that the conventional narrative is that Silvergate, Signature, and others were architects of their own demise. They accepted crypto firms as clients and paid the price when the crypto space experienced tremors in 2022 and 2023. But you hold a different view. In your opinion, we have evidence enough to suggest that the two most important crypto banks, Silvergate and Signature, were opportunistically executed amid the fog of war during the 2023 banking crisis as part of a broader coordinated attempt to debank the crypto industry. Um, why should we tell us why you consider this a summary execution and why it still matters now that Biden is on his way out?
Yeah, I mean, pragmatically speaking, OCP 2.0 will end once we get new FDIC and OCC chairs. Actually, as we speak, House Financial Services is holding a hearing. Gruenberg, the chair of the FDIC, is testifying. Operation Choke Point 2.0 came up in that hearing. Um, it's a, kind of an existential issue, the crypto space. If you can't get banking, you can't do anything. Every one of our startups has problems with banking. In my view, it's unconstitutional to deprive a legal industry of banking. So this will change. Trump ended it, the first Operation Choke Point, when he came into office. That was targeting a different industry, several industries. He will end, in my estimate, 2.0 as well. But I think it's a huge scandal. And if you look at Silvergate, the reason that they voluntarily liquidated, which is unusual, you almost never see it happen. Their business was almost exclusively providing fiat banking to crypto firms. And in 23, after FTX collapse, we know this now. The regulators went to them and said, you can only do 15% of your deposits pertaining to crypto. They wouldn't put this in writing, by the way. They would only verbally message it because they were afraid of leaving a paper trail, which was how Operation Choke Point 1.0 was undone. So they learned, the regulators learned. And Silvergate management looked at the bank. They were still solvent, even if they had a 70% drawdown in deposits, they were still solvent. And they decided to liquidate because they didn't have a business anymore, because the government deprived them of their core business, which was banking crypto. So in my view, that is kind of like a form of eminent domain. I think, ultimately the truth will come out about that. With Signature, it's perhaps even more sinister. I mean, they appeared to be solvent as well throughout the bank run in early 23. And then on a Sunday night, they were sent into receivership by New York Department of Financial Services, and their assets were liquidated. They were sold off, and their crypto business was expunged. The crypto business was not sold on to the acquirer, Flagstar Bank. In both of those cases, I believe it was an execution. I've been pushing hard, to get to the bottom of it. And I know for sure we will get an investigation into it come January. And so the final set of facts will come out eventually. But I mean, I think it's a huge scandal because you're talking about serious, real banks being vanished, being disappeared by the government.
How do you make normal people care about this, right? Like eminent domain, but in the crypto space isn't exactly a sexy thing if you're a normal American who doesn't give a shit about crypto, right? Like what's the upshot? Like what's the tagline here to get people to actually care about this?
I think it's banking should be treated as a utility, not as a political plaything, right? I'm not normal, so I care a lot about it. But if it's not crypto, it could be you. You know, it could be the Republicans could turn around and do it to the Democrats if they wanted. I don't think they will, but it could
Mm.
be whatever politically disfavored industry we're going to target you through the banking, and it's very sinister. It's covert, and if the Republicans wanted, they could use this infrastructure that the left created to politicize banking. They could go after the abortion clinics. They go after Planned Parenthood. They could go after the universities. They could go after the NGOs. Any leftist cause they don't like, they could do the same thing. So by the way, if they do that, I'm going to be just as against it. I don't think banking should be politicized, whether it's the firearms industry, the adult industry, crypto, or anything else. So I think we should see it as kind of a net neutrality kind of reprise. Your electricity shouldn't be politicized. Your access to water shouldn't be politicized, nor should your access to banking. It should be a public utility.
Yeah, I've been really radicalized on this, and I think it's in part because of some of the OCP writing that you've done, Nick, where it's just like shocking to consider, especially like vice industries, whether it's the gun industry or the weed industry or strip clubs and sex work businesses, where it's just like, regardless of which specific thing you're looking to enjoy, it's really kind of astonishing that there are all of these very covert, very surreptitious ways that the government can attempt to put its thumb on the scale and deprive you of access to these things, which in many cases you just have a legal right to possess or to consume, you know?
And here's the worst part is banking is a controlled industry. You can't just create a new bank. There's virtually no new banking charters granted. So I would almost accept the status quo if you could say as an entrepreneur, there's a market gap because the government has told the existing banks don't deal with this industry. Fine, I would start the new bank and I would serve this disfavored industry, but you're not allowed to. And when people come in like Caitlin Long with Custodia and say, I'm going to create the bank for crypto, they're not granted the master account at the Federal Reserve. They're not allowed the new charter. So the market can't clear. It's not a free market, it's a government controlled market. Banks exist at the pleasure of the government. They're highly regulated. And because of that, there should be some kind of constitutional or rule in place or some kind of law that says the government can make these insinuations to redline a whole industry.
So I mean, the first time around with the first Operation Choke Point, it was executed by the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, Elizabeth Warren's brainchild. It seems like the villain here, as in your telling, is the FDIC. What? Why is that? And like, do you have any speculation as to what the motives are of the people involved with the FDIC?
Yeah, I mean, frankly, I think the FDIC had a hand in the first choke point too. And interesting, it was the same chair as Marty Gruenberg, who, by
Uh,
the way, is going to resign now in January because he's mired in this misconduct investigation. Um, under the first choke point, we know the Obama DOJ said we're going to go after payday lenders, and we're going to do it through these agencies. In the second one, we don't yet have that memo. We don't have the tell-all memo that says we're going to go after crypto, but it was a constellation of agencies. It was the Fed as well. It was the regional Feds. It was the FDIC. I believe it was championed ultimately by Warren appointees in the White House, specifically Bharat Ramamurthy, I think, was at the epicenter of this, who's a former Warren staffer. He was the National Economic Council in the Biden White House. So I do believe there was coordination, but it could have been a spontaneous thing as well. It could
mm.
have been opportunistically after FTX, all of these federal regulators got together and maybe individually, they decided, well, it's time to kill crypto. We can't let crypto affect the banking system. We have to wall it off. We have to reduce the exposure to the banking system. Crypto is too risky. So it could well have been a spontaneous thing. I think it was coordinated, but we don't have all the facts yet.
So now there's a new sheriff in town, Sheriff Trump, and it looks like one of his deputies might be this gentleman. Let's bring him to the stage. Representative French Hill, who says that he is planning to investigate Operation Choke Point 2.0 if as financial services chair. This is what he wrote in his press release. He said he would reverse the weaponization of government, as demonstrated by Operation Choke Point. This political targeting has continued under the Biden Harris administration to go after industries like firearms and digital assets. Congress should fully investigate the conduct of the agency personnel to find if their actions and policies were consistent with applicable laws, regulations, and policy, while the Trump administration should officially halt and reverse this policy. Um, what will that kind of approach do for Bitcoin and crypto in America if it does come to pass?
Yeah, I mean, if there's one criticism I have of McHenry, who previously chaired Financial Committee, it's that he wasn't tough enough on choke point. And so I actually had the chance to meet Frenchell in Washington last week, and he told me if he was elected or appointed to run the Financial Services Committee in the House, he would knock down doors to get to the bottom of this. So I'm really hoping he gets that appointment, because I believe that we deserve the facts. I think these agencies acted lawlessly, and so it's time for some accountability, in my opinion. The effect on the digital assets industry would be tremendous. Right now, banks are not allowed to touch crypto assets thanks to this very bad rule from the SEC called SAB 121, which means they have to treat the assets that they're custodying on behalf of the third party like an asset on their balance sheet. It doesn't make any sense. Banks have been told by the Federal Reserve not to deal with stable coins. Stable coins are great for the dollar. They're good for everyone. They promote financial efficiency. They're truly democratizing finance in a non contrived way, like in an actual way that democratize finance. U.S. banks are not allowed to touch them. That has to change. We have foreign banks touching dollar stablecoins. U.S. banks can't touch them. And then, of course, startups have a hard time getting access to banking, especially FBO accounts, transactional banking, right, in the US, because of this 15% depository threshold on crypto accounts that the FDIC has messaged to banks, which is still in place. By the way, it is still in place today as we speak. That will be lifted. All these things will change. The US will once again be the epicenter of the crypto industry. Startups will be unshackled. They will be able to actually just focus on product and growth instead of worrying about bank redundancy. So, I mean, it couldn't be a better. It's probably the number one most important consequence of Trump's election, in my view.
Hey, that was a clip from Just Asking Questions. You can watch another one here or the full episode here. And please subscribe to our brand new channel to get us started off right and be notified when new episodes or clips go up. Thanks for watching.